Okay, it is 1 o'clock on Wednesday, and we are here for another fun budget workshop. Who wants to go first? Mike, you got good news for us. You found millions and millions of dollars just laying around.
So Nancy and Alicia went through and removed the employees that were the slots, and there's some options available.
Right. Based on the recommended cuts from the departments, it helped bring the budget down to where we could now propose a 3% COLA increase across the board. And so that would add another $747,000. And so Mike and I ran our cash numbers this morning, and there's sufficient cash to at least cover that.
That'll make people smile a little better.
Maybe.
Maybe. Well, it's better than no percent. Anything else good and exciting?
Well, the commissioners had on the table to talk about that and finish their addressing enhancement requests, and it's coming out of the same pool. There's some enhancement requests that are funded through outside non-levy funds. Those are independent of this, and there is a little bit of money we can move from. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. So there's still some additional funds that have been sitting in the junior college fund that have accumulated over the years. So that's a non-levied fund. And then with the indigent fund going away, we could transfer, statutorily we can transfer both of those into the general fund. And so that would provide for enhancements, potentially, if you guys agree to that, about $500,000.
And that'd be one-time stuff, not reoccurring cost of living kind of stuff.
Okay, there's one enhancement for the airport. It's going to be about 220. Dave, where'd he go? Anyway, that's to replace the snow blower and snow removal because it's dead. And normally, usually get FAA grants for that, but he asked if there was a way to nickel that so that it would be in the budget, then if we get the grant, then we don't have to spend county money.
The problem is
We've
we
done that.
have to plan for the levy and all of our salaries now.
Right.
So
And so, is there room to do that? Because usually the FAA grant, he's applied for them, he just hadn't heard back. So, and normally they do that for runway maintenance.
That's budgeted technically in the grant fund, not necessarily his fund, if he's anticipating that it is going to be paid for by a grant.
Yeah, and that's what he's doing, is anticipate that.
Right, so if that would be
normally
paid out
do
of
that.
the grant fund, not his airport fund. What if the grant didn't come through?
Well, then it would be budgeted if we did replace it, but doesn't mean that we have to.
Right,
But
so
at some
he's not
point-
expecting.
At some point in time in the very near future, we're gonna have to because it's reached its life expectancy plus many years.
He was here. He
Yeah.
was here watching.
He had to go somewhere, he said he wasn't gonna be in the meeting. so-
Oh. His clarification from him would be helpful because it either does or it doesn't affect the levy. So
Right.
we budget a specific amount of dollars for grants because we don't know what we're going to get each year. So if his intent is truly to seek a grant and pay for it, that's where it would be housed and it would not affect the levy. The only way it would affect the levy is he said, well, no, if I don't get the grant, then I need to pay for it out of the airport fund. So we would need to know either way.
Right.
So I can reach out.
So you want Jesse to email him real quick and tell him to call Nancy for those details.
So from the handout we got, which there was the 3%, 4% different COLA costs, from the information that was presented, you're suggesting that there's $747 approximate $1,000 that is available through the cash. But I
That's what it
have,
would cost us if we did. That is what we would need.
it's this, okay, because I was looking at the one for the proposed the increase to the budget from last week, I had totals for 715 with Percy. Okay.
Yeah, I put a new one on your, in front of you guys just now, so.
I'm looking at the old one. My apologies from earlier. It's now dead.
So we should go through the enhancement list to see what we're going to do or not do, and then you will know what's available after that for a COLA. Is that accurate?
You want to do it in? That's-
I'm in favor of the 3% for the COLA right now, and then we talk about what's left over and focusing on the employees that we have. I mean, that's my perspective.
It's always a 3-year decision. We just do it. We just build your budget for you. We're not the ones that tell you what to do. You tell us how you want it done.
So there's quite a few departments here that have needs that are one-time fee needs that would fit with what Nancy described. If we don't look at what the needs are of the departments, then we're not just serving employees, but we're just serving the community as a whole. So my recommendation is that we look at the enhancements for what we need to have, and then we look at what's remaining, because there's some departments that have been working with things that are just not working now. So any idea from anybody in the back, because I know there's quite a few people here that have enhancements. Is there any, what's the process that you guys want to do? You want to do this, say that you're guaranteeing a 3% and then looking at what's left over to spend, or look at what we need in terms of one-time expenditures from departments? Because
If we do the COLA, what does that leave?
That would be that transfer that I talked about of 500,000.
$500,000 for enhancement.
Which is one-time monies, because that's not going to be recurring revenue.
Right, not salaries and things like that.
And there were some, and that creates challenges just because there are equity adjustments that many departments have in there. They're still lying out there on the table.
We did add an executive session onto this one under records and personnel if we do need it, and hiring. So to cover the bases requested by HR and auditing.
And the commissioners can talk about doing stuff, and everybody knows it's still on the table even after they talk and tentatively decide stuff. It's on the table until you guys actually vote on it. So you might say no to something and then put it back on, yes to something, take it back off. But just be aware of that.
Well, where we are here, well, Mr. Chairman, we have two different perspectives out of two of us, and there's one more member of the board.
I'd look at the enhancements, figure the COLA. We got $500,000 left. Look at the enhancements, see what that does and doesn't do, and then we can decide from there.
So you want to go through the enhancements? Where are we at with the COLA? The COLA is just sitting. We have no.
So for the next 10 or 15 minutes, the COLA is done. We got $500,000 left. Let's look for the absolute necessities and then go from there.
So you just want to go down the enhancement list as it was presented? Because we're also looking for one-time funds. So one-time. One-time funds, which was approximately $15,000, which I'd be willing to put a nickel on, was the upload of, or the modification to go into the cloud with Munis and Tyler. And that would be under,
Just to be clear, 6,000 of that will be a recurring, and then the 8 is the one-time implementation. And I apologize, I missed that one on this list, so.
any
Total was 14K from Jacob.
So I have an issue with doing anything. I think technology should be left to last because we have a need to review this bifurcation of technology. And it might be easy to follow if we did page by page, like the first page, and move through it instead of
That's the second page. All the first ones are,
facilities has a one-time, their emergency management has a one-time. There's one-times on the first page.
did you want to nickel? I'm willing to pass over any of those ones on the first page at this time for nickeling. So, Commissioner Williams or Chairman Bradshaw?
Technology?
So I have a question on the emergency management. Bob, you have the installation of communication and emergency equipment in vehicle?
That's all off the table.
And
Because
then-
we didn't rework.
Okay, so are all of your issues off the table, or is there a non-recurring issue that you need considered?
The only one that's on there is the contract snow removal for the multi-use facilities. We share it between emergency management and EMS.
But it's a recurring. Is it a recurring cost?
Possibly every year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's winter time, so it would be a reoccurring contract, yes.
Okay. Unless you did it as it expires and you have to see if we have the funds to renew it, is,
Exactly.
okay. So is that something that you need in, or is it one that you can,
I think it's important because the EMS can't get in and out in the winter. It's a fair issue. Last year we got called in and that we had to go out and rescue them because they couldn't get out of their facility.
so would it be reasonable for that to be considered for, but that's hard for me to say it's an enhancement just because there's an emergency management tool need to it. But is that something reasonable to consider from emergency management? If the contract's written as an annual so that it ends for the 75 to do that? I'm asking based on what your statement was that it's a non-recurring. So this one's a little tricky because they would need to ask again the next year. Does that, if it ends at the end of this budget cycle that we're talking about, would that be reasonable to consider that as non-renewing because it's not automatic?
I would say a lot of the contracts are annual in nature across the board. They all come up annually. So that would be, like I said, if you guys think it's one time in nature or it will be just presented back and forth.
Okay.
That's-
So given that what he's asking for is the snow removal contract to ensure EMS can service the public, I think it's reasonable to allocate $7,500 for emergency management.
Because that's gonna be a every winter.
I can support that, so
Unless it's a weird one when we don't get no snow.
7,500.
So that's a yes on both. That will be on emergency management and on EMS.
Yeah, joint expense.
So now, going down vertically is the technology piece, which I remain in support of that one-time upload, which will bring us closer to the year in which we are in, which is a 15K.
Yeah, I would nickel that.
So where is that on this?
And like I said, I apologize. That got skipped off of this. It was written somewhere else and not on the actual enhancement sheets. So
Is that something that you guys are using on the sheriff's side? So this,
No,
it's Munis.
it's Munis, we
the
got
financial software.
everyone that does billing uses it.
and so why are we, oh, he's not in here.
We had did you include the Carpel renewal? I thought we discussed that as something,
Carpel
that's already
is-
built in.
Yeah,
So we don't need
Carvel
it.
is- I think we
Yeah.
definitely.
I was under the
nickel that.
impression that that was something that we had to have.
So I have a question on this cloud. You're saying it's a one-time cloud. What's the difference between that and the tape backup library? Do you know?
Well,
Is
I
that
think they're
this-
two different software things altogether. So the tape, I remember Jacob saying that these were kind of these top four were wish list items. They could get by with another year without them, and we can go back to the audio from that meeting if we had to. But there was talk, and it's been worked on that, Mike can speak to this a little bit more about moving Tyler to the cloud.
Yeah, the ease of updates would be done by Tyler, not by our staff. Robin wouldn't be pulling his hair out. Our team wouldn't be trying to pull their hair out. I think all the way around it would be way easier. It would probably be more secure.
Take a load off them.
Yeah, I think it would be smoother. And it would be, as far as having the county continuation of operation plan, if there was an emergency, if you could log into it, then you would be able to get your access. Otherwise, our local drives posting stuff, we would have to figure out ways to get it there, whatever. My understanding is that it's far better to.
I understand Daniel downstairs says if we move to the cloud, we can actually move from the version that we're currently used to a more current version, which is like 4 or 5 ahead.
The other point on that is that
The
other point on that is that they are planning on sunsetting the county's ability to not be on the cloud. We must be on the cloud, so it's a matter of if we do it now or
It's a question of not if, but when.
So the dollar amount is 15,000.
So there's an 8,000 one-time implementation of migrating it to the cloud, and then it would add 6,000 per year to the annual
Licensing or whatever. And that probably won't be cheaper if you wait till it has to be done.
And it's
Not to do things price-wise that didn't stay static.
In regards to general expense 00118940, which is the additional funds needed to support construction of the new EMS and admin building.
Is that
That's on page 2 of the enhancements list that was issued. I don't see how we get away from that. But,
On the Tyler, what do you want us to do before we move on?
yes, but
so? My second page has Marcus Robbins Technology.
Right.
do you have some on those you wanted to address?
Yes, that's the.
Yeah.
So, Marcus isn't here. Has he given input on what your comments on your needs off of that list?
Yeah, and I think we gave that to you a couple of days ago.
Yeah. Down at the bottom, the carpel, that's not optional one. That's got a.
Yeah, in that, I think we agreed that the number one item, the first one was the 25,000 for PC 14 replacement, and that was for 10 normal PCs and 5 higher PCs, and those were about $1,400 a piece, is what that included. As I've probably expressed before, we never had, this last year had a line item, budget line that we could buy these, and we would put the requests in, but they just never got fulfilled, and so we're just another year behind on replacing those.
And so that's your first line of 25,000.
Yes.
Okay.
Then, like from the fifth item, the replacement monitor,
Yes.
down to phone replacement system.
Correct.
Isn't some of that already budgeted item?
Nope. This is not out of the 911. This was out of the technology, and it was split last year, and we were not given a line item to spend off. We were just given the money that was put into the IT and the county side, and we just gave our requests in, and if they were paid for, they were, or they weren't.
That is not my understanding as I'm looking at Justice Fund 34180, and then there's the different objects 6440 through 9500. And that was the capital computers, which is 9430, which was, as of last year, was current year revenue budget was, I see projection level 4 is at $85,500. So it is my understanding. So that was already budgeted in one way, shape, or form through the Justice Fund. Am I correct?
I
in
don't
that?
have the budget.
That's the base so whatever enhancements that were approved last year or for this fiscal year for 34180, everything is taken down to the base again, which is what the numbers you see in your current level 4 projection. So I think the 2 columns to the left of that can tell you what was approved for this year and what was spent as of the time that that report was run.
These numbers here don't actually reflect the purchases that we made, some of the equipment that were made in the last fiscal year. So unfortunately, we're kind of comparing apples and oranges. These numbers here were from last year's, and these have to be approved. These enhancements have not been. If I didn't put on enhancements, I would have had the funds to pay for it. So that's the whole purpose of having enhancements. We don't have the funds to purchase it.
What's the sheet that you're looking at when you say it's the one you gave us? Because that doesn't, well, that makes it easy.
Yeah, it had all the items.
I have one extra set. I just make extra copies. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It should have the little check marks next to it that shows
Yeah.
one time.
That one.
You have.
That's not
Okay, thank you.
It's like
The total 292,700.
Yeah, but no, this is our itemized where it
She did
shows
an
one's a
itemized.
one-time purchase, one's a continued,
She wrote on the one.
and
that has
actually
the
articulates how
manual
many pieces of equipment and the purpose and where they're going. So that we,
It was a second copy because you asked for extra information.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when I look at the list on technology, it's difficult to bypass what their recommendation of need is if we haven't funded it before.
so one thing, can I ask maybe Mike a question? So have you actually seriously looked at what funds each agency and each department's going to have rolling over? Because usually that, we had a request that in past years, and we didn't get that this year.
So nothing rolls over, ever.
Well, I know it doesn't roll over, but those are unspent funds
I did.
that are available to.
Fund by fund, I do.
Yeah.
I'm planning on $7 million of this year's budget not being spent.
Okay.
Every year, it comes in roughly around that. Every year, I'm promised by everybody that they're going to spend every penny, and so we have to do a calculated historical guess.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably an important factor, actually, for us to be discussing, because, you know, we're going to have A budget, B budget funds that aren't going to be spent, and all those will go back into the justice fund for us, for our office.
We've already figured that $7 million into our cash forward, though. So,
Okay.
and it doesn't, doing it department by department, like the Justice Fund has a lot of different departments, became meaningless because they were missed the mark so vastly. It's just the
Right.
big universe, or the macro look is the only thing that was worth any kind of weight as far as budgeting.
So the figures that you and Nancy came up had consideration of $7 million
between EMS
Okay.
and there's like $6.5 million for Bonner County, so $500 for EMS. We're assuming those are not going to be spent, and we're using that as cash we are depending on in next year's budget.
We need a significant amount of that for the carryover, do we not? From the point of
That's what I'm saying.
the end of the
That's
fiscal year until we receive our next tranche of funds via taxation. So it's not, so while it may look like there's money, it's going to be
It still
spent.
carry us through the first quarter.
It's
First
still
quarter is the timing issue. Having it in the budget is the overall annual budget point. So we don't run out by the end of the year.
It's a component of the art of public entity finance.
So, let's say you got $7 million going forward. What is the least amount starting the new fiscal year to responsibly have in reserve? What would be considered the minimal responsible amount? Say 2 to 3 months. Okay. Which would be 7 million. Doesn't take too long to gather that up.
So I have a question on the pro office. Is this in part due to the fact that Bonner County is using Google and some people are using the other one? Wouldn't we save money if we stopped running two and just picked one? across the board, or?
I personally agree with you.
I think
Because
if I recall-
Office is so much user friendly.
And wasn't this something that technology also agreed with, and that would reduce an item? So is there a reason not to migrate in that direction?
And that's our email.
Yes.
Why don't we do one?
Why are we paying for two?
Fantastic question, and we've estimated the time it would take, photograph technology department. We've estimated the time it would take to actually convert systems and move from Google to Office, and it was like 16 weeks that it would take to do it. We would have tried to pull it off this year, but we have a lot of things in the hopper. But that has been discussed and is priced out and what it would take to get there. So.
And isn't there a significant cost savings by taking the time to do it, associated with just what we're paying Google?
The Google contract's up for renewal, and I believe there was a cost savings going to all Microsoft.
Do you know if we can do that month by month and just like, or by a quarter, or do we have to do an annual renewal?
You get a discount when you go annual, but it can be month to month, if you wanted to go that route.
I don't know how you do anything other than an annual. I mean, what are you going to do? Not renew?
Well, no, but if we can do Google for long enough to be able to do the migrate, we don't have to pay for the 8.
Oh, the Google
if it's 16, if it's going to require 16 weeks, we've got to have 4 months of maintaining our communication with all of the different departments,
Right.
which is 1/3 of the year.
So I think
So then,
to answer Asia's question, was already figured into at least this technology's budget already is the Google contract, whether they decide to go Google or Microsoft, that particular piece has been appropriated for.
I would like to transition to one platform and stop paying 2 different platforms. And it is not something that it's not typical in business, so.
That'd be simpler from the tech side too, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think we get a lot more capabilities with the Microsoft platform that just don't exist on the Google platform. And so from us technology support, from our end user training support, Office is the standard, and that's what a lot of people use. So we're only doing ourselves benefits by moving back to that platform.
and actually, if the justice folks are using that, it would be uniformity across the county.
Yeah.
So I'm in support of that, and even to see if we could do it, even if it takes 6 months. That's still 40,000 here, 40,000 there. All of a sudden, we're talking real money.
So from a standpoint, do you guys have to upgrade to the next item, or can you get by until we fully migrate, or does yours remain its own standalone?
It doesn't, we can continue to use this. And actually, I think that was the prosecutor's office, and they have already switched to Office.
Right.
So this is an upgrade.
Okay, so we
An
don't need,
enhancement
Yeah.
for them.
we don't need to do that one. We can cross that off. You still have a substantial amount of technology need value here.
Okay, so no on that one for right now, because we're going to move everybody over. What's the policy?
I believe the justice is already using Office because that was a requirement in regards to some of the software that the prosecutors used to be able to do.
Just the prosecutors.
Oh.
Sheriff's offices and courts. Courts aren't on Office, are they, Mike?
No.
No.
Well, I don't know. So there's Munis required some things for a while. So I don't know, or not Munis, Odyssey. I don't know. You know that better than I do, probably.
I mean, there's going to be a move to the cloud
Yeah.
and things like that, but
We still have to operate those things on our
Right.
desktops.
right.
I'm willing to just say here that we should just start the process to go to one system because saving money, even if it takes 6 months to get there, is still saving us money that we can invest in more efficient ways.
It saves us every year.
In
Yeah.
casual conversations throughout the county, I would say no less than 90% of everybody I've talked to would like to go back to Microsoft.
I'm
I mean,
part
it
of the
seems
10%,
like it's pretty
but-
much unanimous.
See a lot of heads nodding,
Oh.
yeah.
We'll be part of the.
So what's
There
your
are some
total?
diehard Google fans that like.
So that's
Mr.
already
Ahmed.
figured into the budget of.
Where do we
going
come up
forward.
with
willing
your
to learn,
enhancement
But he's
need
willing to
dollar
disagree and
amount?
commit on that. So.
Where do we come up
Yeah,
with? Well, our whole total enhancement for IT was $292, or $92,000, and that means if you fund that, that means nobody gets a raise. So
So that's why I'm
Well,
asking you to go
yeah.
on this line to look at what are the needs that have to happen on this next cycle, or what.
The one-times.
So you want to call them out, so, because does everybody have a sheet so that they're following, so that,
Security endpoints number one.
Security employee.
so that's an annual,
Yep.
No, that's not an annual, that's a first time, well, I mean, it will be an annual, but this is a first time funding.
and so you would be able to use it out of your budget then renewal, because it says 3,200/year.
It does say 3,200 a year, but it's a new cost and it's every 3 years, and so it's a brand new cost.
Okay, so your 3,200 is a need. What else do you have as a need?
So
And I guess, what is this backup software licensing renewal?
that is an every year renewal. That is not,
That's not an optional.
that's not one time.
So if that's not a one-time, why does it come on the enhancements? Is it because your budget doesn't allow
Because
for
it's
it?
enhanced every year. Yeah.
Okay. And that's
It'd be a
6,000.
line item.
Well, is it a well, it's similar. It could be similar though to the tape backup library. We have to have backups, but without Marcus or to be able to answer this question, is it an additional program?
It was a good question, Commissioner Williams, when you had it last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever. It's really good to identify which ones are one-time and which ones are continued. So in at least the last 15 years I've been here, we've never addressed that and identified in these enhancements, which are normal everyday expenses that just have to be increased. And so this is the first time we're doing it. So
And that's, in my opinion, how we should do it, so that we accurately look at everybody's budget to make sure the foundation of needs are met. Because really, enhancement should be if you have money left over, or if it's a new thing that's coming to your budget, not a lot of your list looks like it's part of a regular budget, not an enhancement. But I see what you're saying. What about NetMotion software subscription? Do you already have a
yes,
subscription?
we do.
So
And-
I guess when we budget for subscriptions, aren't those included in
The budget.
the budget already when we do like software subscriptions? I would think that they're inclusive of the
Unless
things
they're
that we
brand
already have.
That's why I was
Current
asking, is
subscription,
this-
If we have a budget for subscriptions, I would be under the impression that those are included, these things are already included in that number.
If it has been approved by the board.
Unless
That
what
could be a-
what it
Yeah,
sounds
I'm gonna
like.
tell you I can tell you only 9,000. Those are for an additional amount of laptops because we're not paying 9,000 for NetMotion subscription for 36 or 40 laptops. So that is for additional
That would be
MVCs that
software
have to be
subscription
added for the
for the new ones.
NetMotion. And those are a one-time cost.
I'm going to say then there's a discrepancy because it says replacement MDCs for 21,000. This one says software subscription.
Yeah, we have a software subscription for each one.
Mhm.
NetMotion, just a subscription to be able to communicate back and forth with the 911 center, and ADL, what is it? ABL, which is the subscription that we have that we can identify the location of every patrol car and where they are located. So these are all.
These are
It's
recurring
technology.
annual, so
Yeah,
then it
they're-
goes back to Nancy's
yeah.
question of, are those not part of your regular budget since they're already in existence, and so we can cross those ones off?
Well, I can say the 9,000, that's not our annual cost for NetMotion. It's more like 30 or 40,000 for all of those, so.
So something's not.
So I can
think that's a
ask-
$9,000 increase that will be reoccurring because of
The additional
cost of everything going up. So that 9,000, I think we've added to our infrastructure every couple of years. We add more MVCs and mobile data terminals for, and then of course the cost goes up, and so that 9,000 I believe is Marcus would. My understanding is that is an increase that will be an annual increase to the existing costs that we already have.
So then my question goes back to auditing. When you have a subscription that's already part of the regular budget, or do we budget for the anticipated rise of cost of something we're already doing? Because
That's up
he's.
to the department to do, not auditing. They're the ones that are more familiar with what subscriptions they have going.
Because in some of the budgeting, it should be not, this is not an enhancement. This is just the price of what you already have goes up, so it's not you're not going to be able to not put the 9,000 in.
But
you
it
have
is-
to pay it.
But it is an enhancement if you're adding additional machines to the contract.
Because
So
each one has to be licensed.
each one has a license. So if you're expanding the number for that, it would be technically an enhancement.
And then it would become
And then it
permanent.
becomes
in the next-
Correct.
Correct, but this is listed as replacement. It's not listed as additional.
Which-
So since it's listed
Yeah,
as
it says
replacement
replacement,
MDCs, then the way that I explained it would be accurate. This is not increasing the number. It looks like maybe an adjustment in the cost of the software itself of the next budget year. Unless these are not really replacements, they're actually new.
I think the sheriff's going to the source.
Yeah, replacement means that the old one is dying.
So it's not an
and another
increase.
one
So
is
we have to
replaced, so
see-
you didn't increase the items, you just replaced the items.
But the subscription could cost more. And
So
So-
in the interest of the number of people, could we move forward and come back to this as the sheriff, of course, communicates with Marcus?
So hard drive replacements.
Those are
20
just the drives that have to be replaced. They wear out, they're good for 3 years, and they have to be replaced. How many is it? Every 2 years replacement. Is
We're
that-
replacing 12.
And we're doing 65.
Yeah, every 2 years.
So you have.
We have 350, and we're replacing 65
And,
every 2 years.
and so that's,
What's the lifespan on those?
2 years.
The operable lifespan, or?
The manufactured lifespans on these are every 2 years to be replaced, they suggest. And so we replace a third of them every 3, or half of them. So we have 350 per hard drive, and we're replacing 65. So next year, and this is what you say, this should be a reoccurring expense.
because it
So,
happens
yeah,
every
replacing
year.
these every year.
Like the cars, you don't buy them all the same year.
Correct.
Well,
And then every 4 or 5 years get hammered.
And so then, a little bit, the need is that, the question then is there a failure on your system if you don't replace those hard drives per the recommendation of every 2 years?
Always a chance of failure.
Do you have failures that are current because of, like a glitch because they're,
We replace them so there won't be a failure.
Okay.
So we go in there and identify them, number them, put the date on, and then every 2 years we replace them. Because when there is a failure, that causes problems.
okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
So then you have Ethernet switches. Is there a problem with you're adding an additional amount of that? Like, I'm wanting you guys to kind of go through where your absolute needs are, because your line item total is really high. And I don't want to not pay attention to things that you need to absolutely have, but your list is long. And so do you have to have replacement PCs, or can you limp through another year with what you have? Because there's a difference of it doesn't work, it doesn't shut down, versus we should get new laptops. Do you have to have the number of MDCs replaced
Well, I guess
right
that
now?
would be a question. Last year, I think Mike can attest to this. We were having problems getting a PC ordered, and Mike couldn't get one, and so we ordered one for him. So they wear out, and they get old, and they're outdated, and so we have a cycle that we try and replace them. And I know last year it was very difficult to get orders through to get them replaced, and so we're just trying to catch up.
You say you got one from technology instead, or?
No, you had a new employee, and we just ordered it. a laptop for you,
For me?
for one of your employees. But, you know, for, like, just on the spot.
Oh, I know, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't have a list of, in front of me, 5-year laptop, 6-year laptop, 7-year, you know, or then 2 or 3 or what, but I can sure provide that for you.
Because if you agree that 292 is high and you're not looking for that, I'm looking for you to say what is it that you need so that I'm focusing on your list.
Well,
Because you have to go through one pass to see what you say your needs are, and then a pass through to see, because the guy at the end of this list can't get shorted just because your large list was at the beginning. Because I recognize people might be calculating that we're about to run out of money on this section.
On the budget, I don't have a copy of it with me, but there should be a line item for equipment. Can you just say what the base is for their capital equipment or compute? I think it's.
The current year revenue budgeted was $500,000. $502,000 under.
About like the
And
level
that's for
four.
equipment?
That's for equipment. For it says capital for computers. For the justice fund.
I'm not talking about this year.
You don't-
I'm talking about
Can I
what the
see
level
that?
four is for next year.
That's 2024 Bonner County budget.
Oh,
And there's for.
give me a
Well,
list.
509430.
I can put a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on it.
Well, I don't, that's what I'm, we've got multiple of yours.
Well, I know.
that has that.
If I could just see that 134, 180, I could put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Help me out.
Yeah,
Let me
so
know if I'm doing it. It might
Or
be right.
on your master list, maybe? On this one. Here, I could put a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 off of the one step. Give me 2 seconds.
They were giving.
So looking at what we've got, they were budgeted, the justice fund was budgeted $750, but the current year actuals is $112,168. So it, now granted, there's the cash flow as we're doing the projections, but there's,
I mean, that's for this current year,
Yep.
and I think that's kind of the point that Daryl was making is the stuff that isn't. So I'm just wondering if there's things that Marcus can order that are part of this list that are still available in this year.
In this
Does he
fiscal
have-
year?
Does he have the time to be able to at least?
I'd say no, we don't have the time. I mean, this is August, so
Yeah.
we're right now doing our main ordering and big orders for the infrastructure,
Okay.
the equipment. And this is the big time of the year, as I explained last week or the
Right.
week before, that the leftover budget doesn't reflect what we're gonna have at the end of the year. Because we have contracts that we've entered in and we're getting things built out during the summer.
So what you marked are your top 4 things you need.
Top 5.
5.
Did I miss one?
Oh, no, 5.
Okay.
Well,
Just
yes,
5.
so first
5
item,
one time only.
3,200 security endpoint. Your
Yes,
second
ma'am.
item was the $24,000 for hard drive replacement.
Yes, ma'am.
Third item, additional VMware license for 5,000. And then you have Ethernet switches at 18,000, and then additional camera license 1,000.
Those are all the one-time expenses Marcus listed out in the order of importance.
That does drop it down
A lot.
a lot. Thank you.
Apologize for not having that already.
Oh, no, you're good. Okay. So we'll come back noting that that's your Christmas list of stuff.
$51,200 in total. Okay?
Okay.
What'd you end up with?
The total of the 5 that was just brought forward is $51,200. Unless I did addition wrong, which is always possible.
So you have the Ethernet switches, the hard drive replacement, the VMware license, security endpoint, what was the last one?
Additional camera licenses for 34,180,8950. Ready to move on?
Mm-hmm.
So the next one, which is under 0118, general expenses 9480. That is something that we have started. I mean, the destruction has started.
There's no turning back.
Yeah, we aren't, Humpty Dumpty's not putting that back together.
Well, you can try.
Let's not.
It's not
So-
going to be the same shape.
And that is additional funds needed to support the construction. Does that need to be out of general? Okay, so that's $300,000.
Is there like a list of what that means? What the general idea of what that comes down to?
I would have to go get it. It is part of the moving of the power lines that was unexpected.
But we approved that this Tuesday, so that
Right, it has to be done. I'll figure it out one way or the other. But
well, no, I'm saying if we approved it on Tuesday during the current budget, why would it be in that 300? Or am I missing something?
I would have to go get my list. I didn't bring it with me.
I think we should have to look at to make sure that it's 300 because we don't have anything other than the number.
I know it's the impact fees from the city, the permitting from the city, which ended up being a lot more than what was thought.
So I'd like to see the list to make sure that it is actually a need to hold over that amount of money to see how that calculation came to be.
Okay.
Just like we did for the other areas. 300 is just, it's a lot, so we have to make sure that we're holding over 300 necessarily. And the project has started, but more information is needed instead of over tuition.
Eddie, with the bid that was awarded, which came in what we budgeted so far for this fiscal year, didn't that bid come in just slightly less than what? I don't remember how much was it?
The bid came in, well, the total for both phases was $7,190,000.
I believe we budgeted for more than that, like the bid came in lower, so you wanted to
The
reserve.
total budget is, and I can go get the spreadsheet on all the expenses that have come out.
Can you get that so everyone could see that? 'Cause
something, wasn't it, total?
it-
Originally
The
budgeted.
original budget is 7.6, almost.
And then the bid that you got was 7.1. And so we have that room already budgeted for. We would just be doing a capital carryover into the next year for those unspent funds to finish the project. So the way I see it is that 300 is already built in. It'd just be carried over with the project, unless you're saying it's gonna, with everything you have, it's gonna go to 7.7 and then you need another 3 on top of
Let
it.
me go get paperwork.
Okay.
I'll be back.
Yeah, construction projects in process at the turn of the year, those funds by statute can automatically be rolled forward to finish the project.
So this to me looks like asking for an additional amount of money that wasn't in the bid that we already approved, and so it needs justification to hold it over.
And clarification, that's.
Yeah, like if we had already budgeted like 7.7 for it and then the bid came in at 7.1, I think the room is already there
Right.
for it, that
Would take
we
care
don't
of the
need like,
uh-oh
it's
when
not
they do
gonna
the hole
be
in
8
the
million,
ground.
it's gonna come closer to
always happens.
7.7 that's already been.
Because I lean on, I don't think we actually have to hold over $300,000, and that's a lot to not give stuff for. So planning has permit text, but we didn't really need to mess with that.
Skip
That's the-
GIS.
That's the HR.
So that's just to replenish what we've used for tuition reimbursement. When we funded it originally, it came out of the junior college funds. So we're just requesting an additional 15,000 to be moved into that from the junior college fund again.
Where do we get the dollar amount from? Is it, do you have a
What
number?
we've already used. So there's been an increase in people utilizing the tuition reimbursement.
So have you factored the amount of people and the cost for the actual year, or is it a guesstimate of dollars?
It's
Like-
a guesstimate at this point because we haven't had a full, it just kicked off last year, and so we haven't had a full year to really analyze to see the use fully right now.
How much have you,
I just want to say, so to be clear, last year we approved an enhancement of $42,500 for this fiscal year. That enhancement goes away, so just know that when you add for this 15,000, that's all that's going to be added to the education line. It's not going to be the delta of what was unspent plus 15. So the actual ask should be put it back up to where we were before, which is
Okay.
Bring it back up to 42.
what was spent?
I want to say about 15 so far.
10 to 15 days so far this year. So the enhancement really is to put 42.5 back in there.
But, so since we should be able to factor a little bit closer to what the real number is, because that's a big difference to say we've only spent 15, but we're holding out $42,000. So we should know how many people that you currently have in the program and the projected cost, and then anticipate a guesstimate of how many people might want to take advantage of that to come closer to a real number instead of an arbitrary number, because you didn't come close to 42,000. So do we need
And
to?
the program rolled
First
out
year
like
that
6
it was
months late.
implemented, so.
And another thing to keep in mind, like
have
the
that data.
tuition reimbursement is limited for each calendar year. So no employee can get more than $5,250 in 1 year.
If Road and Bridge has 3 guys that have to get a CDL, that just sucked up 15 grand right there.
Well, a good example too is like EMS. We've had a lot of them actually utilize the program, or several of them. I know more of them will start utilizing it because it's so new. People aren't used to it. So we've been educating people, and then some of their classes are actually like 10 grand a pop. So they can only cash in the 5.
And that money is also coming from the junior college fund. I'm comfortable with the 42,000 because we're still technically in the second half of our first year of rolling this out, even though we are in our second.
So keep in mind that 42 is part of the 500 that I talked about.
That's why I'm saying we should try to get to, some people are just giving dollar amounts instead of saying how you get to that calculation to hold money off. And so when you're in a tight budget, or any budget, it's best to kind of explain this is what you anticipate to actually use, because when we hold off the 42,000 for that, somebody else isn't getting something that they've identified that they could
So
use.
we can drop it to 30, and then we can reevaluate it. I don't feel comfortable going lower than that because I don't know who's going to utilize it. And if there's no funding for our policy, they don't get reimbursed. So
And they're less
it's
likely
kind of
to
one of those.
further that education.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying though, but
I think this is a really good, we're still in the first year of this program. I would rather provide the opportunity for employees to be able to invest in themselves, which is a benefit to the county, and also hopefully will help with our retention of employees. So I'm okay with the 42.
So one way that we can mitigate this the next time it comes through is do a inquiry of staff before we come to budget, so that we know what we need. That way we're giving a more real number, because we're just saving money that we may not spend, which is, both of the issues are reasonable, but we can do a little bit of a canvas before budget and have people have a sign up for tuition reimbursement, so that we can give that idea and you can drop but not adding after, because that way the number is more real. And it requires people to think about it, which is beneficial for that. If you only spent 15, 42 is hard to say hold out the whole 42, but what are you thinking? That's reasonable for you.
And then you're limiting it cake as in everybody's.
Everybody, the other 460 employees don't have that opportunity.
It is essentially first come, first serve, and in the policy it is written that they can only do it as long as there's funding available. So,
Mr. Chairman?
That is a particular that's going to come up one way or another, and if funds are available.
So it's 5,000 max per person. What's the dollar amount that you want for tuition reimbursement?
I'd leave it at like 40, and let's see, because it just rolled out. A lot of people don't even know about it yet. Let's see what kind of participation we get. If they don't use it, then they don't use it, and we roll it back. And we'll look at the end of the budget cycle, and if we need 10 grand somewhere, we'll roll it down to 30 if we need to before the last day. So. Laminated.
Well, these are, those are going to be discussed in executive. There's specific people saying that they can.
fair and planning.
Yeah.
Alright. Where's that rich guy? Sleeping in it, Mark?
Yep, back here.
Or is yours gonna be exact?
What page are those?
No, it's a guesstimate. You're not wrong.
I'm looking at the first enhancement. I'm looking at it.
They gave out a new one today.
00127 is where we're on.
Yep. Those are, none of those are really,
When you say the dues are 2,000, is that the actual number or was that just an estimate?
It's close. It's I can't remember the exact dollar amount. If I round it up slightly, because they're all weird numbers. I can't remember top of my head. Like 675 or something like that. Other numbers. But that was historically always been the 2,000. I think it dropped it last year. That one in the classes. It's not just myself, it's for the department, so these are two.
you've been able to, so how have you been paying for this previously?
Previous years, just paying this last year, I didn't renew some of them, so I think I dropped out. There's like,
Does it lower our costs if we participate in this?
it helps with it's like an education thing, because you're up to date on industry news and all that. That's the same as the classes. It gets you resources like access to online forums and contents to stay up to date.
I'm just looking at the return on investment. If I pay $2,000 and we save $20,000 in our premiums, that seems prudent.
Oh yeah, exactly. But I can't make a promise that way. But yeah.
So there's
same as everything else.
there's no corollary between those two?
We don't get guaranteed savings back belonging to those now. It's just a way to stay abreast on news. So if I need to do it to help save the budget, of course I'll give it up to save.
So my question on, like when you get into the technicality of insurance and RINs and risk, are those education pieces that you have and that makes you stay current?
Exactly, yeah.
And so is that when we have other people like EMS, do we pay for the license to be maintained? Does the county absorb that cost?
I believe we do, yeah. I'm not 100% here, but I'm not sure actually for their certifications, like to be, or for sheriff office, for post, or for continuing education, I'm assuming. I can't speak for their departments.
Because this is a specific industry that changes enough that it is necessary to be a part of that, just like ASQ and some of the other ones. But I would make an argument that two people don't need to go, that you can bring information back. And,
no, we don't both go, no.
And then I would say on the workers' comp and insurance, there's the opportunity, like I was telling you about, when they come to Coeur d'Alene, because they do two in the state of Idaho annually. If we're going to move towards somebody looking at taking the class and passing the test, it's reasonable. But if that's not what you're looking at doing, the cost associated is not justified. You can just read the information on your own. But if I would support it if you would take the test and be certified, and that, but
sure,
just to attend isn't necessary, because the reason that cost on that one is because they're going to give you a test on it, which I don't think Bonner County has ever actually taken a test for that.
No, yeah, these are just associations like ASSP, which is Association of Safety Professionals. There's RIMS. There's HRNI, which is like an HR-based one. Those type of associations. They might offer classes for testing. That's not this. This is not certifications for a class. These are just professional organizations with information. There's information, resources, and all that. Especially being self-insured and all that, just to stay on top of knowledge.
We started the Think Zoom, what, 2 years ago, 2.5
Or
years?
more. It might have been 3 by now. I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't know if it's coincidental or, because we made it mandatory that first year. And our workman's comp incidents went down. I don't know if that was coincidental and we just had a couple of really good years, or do we attribute some of that to the classes? Because it did, that year it made a difference in claims. I don't know if that's the single factor, but.
No, definitely. It's part of a cornerstone of a physically self-insured of a risk program is training, education, continuous improvement, good tools, inspections, just a bunch of components to it. And education is cornerstone for just awareness and knowledge for employees and management. I recommend we keep focus on education, especially since we own the risk ourselves. It's very little outsourced. Definitely recommend continuing those.
Yes, sir.
Not to change the topic, but I gotta leave in about 5 minutes for a dental appointment that's been scheduled.
Oh, we can do dental work. I got Dremel too.
In regards to
In your office then.
In regards to the enhancements for justice services, I'm in support of the ones that Ron came in and said that we have funding for, which are 3.
Yeah.
To be very clear.
So that, you make it easy when you say, and we have money
So,
for it.
but the additional position, the budget,
I understand. And
but for those other 3, I'm in support, speaking for myself. And I can say which lines those are. Do you want to write these down, Mike?
Yeah, that's it.
But I don't know.
Go for it.
But I'm looking to. But I'm only at 1/3, so I have to get at least one more. 006616060. There are 2,
the other one's under justice.
and the other one was 034756060. Is there any of the other thirds that are in support of that, so that I'm not just blathering?
We'll use revenue generated from our contracts with Lincoln and Boundary counties to fund those. I'll give it to Nancy and Mike to make sure that that works properly, so that money gets moved into the budget to cover that.
Okay. We like it when you find funding.
So you say there are 2 in the 6060 under 661. I see 4 on.
There are.
Which ones are you looking at?
So there
There's a lot
is
of notes.
00661. So there's the equity adjustment for director, equity adjustment for the assistant director.
Yes.
And then the third one is equity adjustment detention manager.
He's actually under the justice.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you want me to explain?
Well, it doesn't, I was looking for how you came up with the 300,000. This is your total EMS construction budget.
Right. These are all the extra expenses that we have to pay above the budget that were not in the bid, that were not planned for, that the county is responsible for. So if we had the extra money, the total money for the project would be $7,898,000. The total project cost with 0 changes orders, nothing going wrong, is $7,807,000.
And so this is already budgeted.
The 7.6 is budgeted.
Top line.
The top
What
line.
the original budget was.
This, that,
That was for the building.
And the total budget is approximately 7.9, which is where you arrived at your 300,000.
Yes, if the extra money was given.
So this project was presented saying that we don't have enough to fund it through this, and so you were dependent on an enhancement because something
No,
doesn't seem
on
right.
it. I'll figure it out one way or another. I'll cut costs somewhere if I have to. I don't know.
You put that building back together?
Sure, it won't look the same, I'm telling you.
I don't remember what the same now.
This is engineer estimate and pricing. Spencer made this up. So, and he's in another meeting and couldn't come up.
Okay, the 198 for the DMV, that was moving the DMV into this building, right?
Right. But in all honesty, for that to even truly happen, we need better parking. We need it more accessible, which there's a plan for it, but there's not money for it right now. So I don't even know if the DMV is feasible right away.
I think this $300,000 isn't well explained as an enhancement. I don't see how we can look at that without more information. It doesn't
Okay.
make sense.
So, construction contingency, 359.
That's the retention.
What?
The retention.
Okay. Okay. And that would come out of the budgeted amount. Okay. So
Yeah, that's why it's on the list.
So are we moving away from the risk side into
Move away from the 300 for now.
the 300?
So now we're back on risk.
Yeah. On that one, I feel like it's a comeback because I don't feel like your numbers add up to the costs of some of these organizations. I think something's off on, like RIMS. Is RIMS, because I don't, is it, are you being a member as the organization or the individual?
I'm not sure how to answer that. It's on behalf, I wouldn't belong to it. I wasn't working at
No,
Bonner County.
the type of membership. Did you do
Oh,
it
I-
as the organization of Bonner County
Oh,
or
yeah,
as an
Bonner
individual?
County. I almost represent the vice president of the chapter. But RIMS is, risk management.
So that, if you're that, then it's probably like 1,200 on RIMS if you're doing it that way. Okay.
It's not that much, so I can't remember. It's between that
For
one
the-
and Prima. There's a bunch that belong.
Because for the organization, you had to say the number of people within the organization, and that's how they calculate their costs. That's why I was
Yeah,
curious
not really
on.
that way, but yeah, it's on behalf of Bonner County.
Okay. For some reason,
So any nickels you want to place, or if we're using that expression, either of you on risk to get.
I don't give him that.
Well, there's only three. Okay.
he has to maintain the newest of information, which does get presented at these types of conferences to identify risk issues that especially come towards the industry. I just want to make sure we're reserving absolutely what is needed for that. And do we have to travel to all 4 of the conferences, or can you? So, for example, there isn't a specific risk assessment issue on IEC, but there is in RIMS. So would your money be better spent working with RIMS when you're looking at the type of organization you are versus Idaho Association of Counties, which isn't necessarily specific to risk in its whole? It's very generic versus what RIMS does.
And just so you know, on that specifically, I don't get reimbursed, or the county does not pay for my travel. It's on my own cost and risk. It's something to do with the vehicle policy, on the monthly things. So all my travel's on my own fee, basically. I don't put mileage or anything. I need it. That's why I have a little electric car to minimize fiscal damage.
So of your affiliations, is there some that you think that you could Not participate with, or what are your absolute needs on risk to make sure that you're up to date?
I had a peg, I'd like to keep the RIMS one going, I could drop the ASSP one.
And
HR
bring
NNI is pretty inexpensive, I did that one just to keep abreast of HR issues too, that's not my role. I think what else I do. FEMA is useful, that's, public risk management. But yeah, I can definitely pare back if you want on that.
I guess can some of these already be paid out of your existing budget? I mean, I know we're trying to go through all of these, but trying to wait for somebody to come back with membership costs, it needs to be done sooner rather than later. We have a publication deadline.
No, you can definitely, I hate to waste, a dollar talking a penny. You want to keep it flat the way it is, just don't spend the money.
Sold. Let's go on for the next one.
Okay, I'm going to go back to the EMS construction. If we're $300,000 short, what are we going to do? I mean, I'm neither for nor against the project. What I'm saying is I'm sure there's going to be at some point next year a demand presented to my office. We got to pay this. It's due. So we can't just pretend it's not coming.
I'm not pretending it's not coming. There's an information that shows you how we're holding out $300,000. And so I think we have to get an understanding of how she came up with the $300,000 to hold out. Because when asked, her answer was she could come up with it if we didn't. So something isn't adding up. So it's reasonable to table that. If not doing an enhancement, she could still make it work.
Well,
I'm only saying that because there's no going back, so I would have to figure it out in order, or we're going to have an unfinished building.
My understanding.
Come out of the contingency funds.
But I'm asking to show how we came up with that dollar amount to hold out.
I think Spencer did something. Did you get a copy? Did you give a copy of this to the commissioners?
Yeah, I did.
Here, I'm looking at it. The budget is $7,598,969, and I can see the budget enhancement. I have no questions in regards to where it says the total budget, which comes up with this $300,000. That building is done. We are not going to put that building back together, and whether we address it, I am completely on board with Mr. Rosedale saying we are not going to stop and leave the roof off of a $7 million building and just determine, well, we're out of that last $300K.
So what this says, if you were interested, it says this is her budget, and she gave a total budget enhancement of $300,000, but it doesn't say what that enhancement is. How do you come up with the $300,000?
Right now.
And so when you look at the other items here, she tells you testing $42,000, and that's how you get to your 7.8. How did you get $300,000 was necessary for an enhancement? What is included in that calculation is not on this form. So that is what I'm asking, because you're just saying hold out a budget enhancement of $300 without saying what is that?
Yeah, I'm not. This isn't my math. This is Spencer's math or whatever. All I'm saying is that whatever the number is we better put in the budget because I know there's going to be.
I'm not saying that there isn't a number. I'm saying you have to justify the number.
Yeah, I don't have to. I mean, she does.
I'm not saying you have to. I'm saying this has to be justified, just like we did when we looked at sheriffs. Why are you asking for this, and how do you get that number? This is not an explanation of the budget enhancement. It's just a dollar amount.
I'm adding.
Mr. Chairman, in the interest of moving forward, it says the total project cost is $708,000, and if we're looking at the sheet that Teddy provided to us, and I haven't done the math, I could pull up my calculator.
Okay. From the Avista cost down is a total of $255,722. That's the extra that has to be done.
$255, which is not initially budgeted. So that
correct.
Mr. Chairman, I am interested, because we have torn down that building and we are not putting that back together, of at least putting in the $255,000 nickeling. So because that cost there's no way to avoid it.
There is a cost. It is reasonable when you are doing a budget that impacts everybody that's in this room that we justify the costs. And if you look at this, it doesn't tell you that answer. And it's our obligation whether you like the time it's taking to go through the budget, to make sure we're justifying holding that out. Just adding up some numbers within this, it doesn't tell you, she picked numbers off of a section and told you a total of 250. This does not explain holding out $300,000, which, if that was the case, why was the request 300 and not 250? From a math perspective, this is a lot of impact on our budget, as we're going to come through people that need enhancements, that we should make sure we have exactly what we need from Public Works on that. And that is, it's not sufficient to hold out that money for it without having that information. And that is not the same.
I didn't just pull out numbers.
Well,
It lists it from a Vista down is all the extra fees that came along that were not budgeted
This
for, that
form
we have to pay.
just has dollars. So if I was coming into audit, there is nothing that would tell me that this is not budgeted for and that I need to add those up because there's an issue with it. It just has numbers next to names with you adding budget enhancement of $300,000. But it doesn't tell me what that enhancement is. And it doesn't tell me what's not paid or paid.
Well-
You're just listing costs.
Commissioner Williams, it does tell me, so I'm looking because this is, I understand it. Mr. Chairman, I think it's pretty obvious that there's two of us who disagree, which in a board of three makes it so that there's one necessary to be the tiebreaker. I understand it, and I don't believe that the building is going to be put together. I am fully in support of building that because I believe it is in the best long-term interest of Bonner County, and budgeting that at a minimum seems prudent at this time. So it's up to you to figure out which way we're going.
Well, having somewhat, a little bit of construction experience, I fully understand it, so, yeah, I'm good with Nickel in that.
What does that mean?
At 255, are we?
You're saying you're putting it in?
At the 250.
255.
Okay. That's a yes for 255.
That's
Yeah.
Man. The next one would be the snow blower. I'm not prepared to do the snow blower because otherwise then we're done with our 500,000.
So if we're gonna get clarification
Okay.
from Dave if it's being paid through a grant or not. If it's being paid through a grant, it has no effect on that 500,000 that's available.
Oh, well, I'm back interested.
I did email him, he has not responded.
Courthouse 006.
Are we skipping elections?
That's under exact.
Yeah, I'm going risk, then 002 total R&D. Airport was next on mine. Two different ones.
So we're on 006? District Court? Carleen Behringer?
Are you ready for me?
We're ready for you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Carleen Behringer, Trial Court Administrator for the record. We did submit some enhancements. There are enhancements for the bailiffs, and there's also enhancements for District Court. One of the enhancements that I think is very, very important is the $5,000 increase in psychosexual evaluations. Every sex offender that is being charged with that type of sex crime has to have one of those evaluations. And we're seeing an increase in the number of people that are required to get those by statute. The other, it's very sad.
It's not really an enhancement to me if it sounds like it's required by statute.
The costs are going up, and unfortunately, the evaluators, many have moved. So we're very,
Yeah.
there's not very many
Absolutely.
PhDs offering that service.
Okay.
The other thing that I think is very important, we need to, our lease with our Canon copy machine increased. And I would like to ask for an additional $500 so we could pay that yearly lease fee.
That would not normally be an enhancement.
The next thing that's very important to us is courthouse security upgrades. The courthouse is the newest courthouse in North Idaho, but we still need to do more upgrades to make sure that's a secure building for the judges, the employees, and the public, and the litigants, and the attorneys. The next thing that I'd like to discuss is the increase for bailiff uniforms and ammunition. Of course, we need ammunition, just in case, unfortunately, they do have to use their weapons. So I'd like to increase it from $1,970 to $2,660. And ammunition, it's a $600 increase from $1,840 to $2,440.
We don't have that.
We don't
I
have
don't
that.
have that one.
Oh, I submitted that to you.
Well, but what we're looking for is the difference, which isn't the 1,200 the difference between the two?
The difference for the bailiff's uniforms is $690, and the ammunition is $600.
Wait, 690. You said that 690 for ammo, and
The increase for the ammo was $600, and the increase to the bailiff uniforms was $690. And then I'm also requesting 2 tasers for the bailiffs. That would cost $1,200. And bulletproof vest for the bailiffs, $4,900. The other thing I'd just like to focus on is there's a secure door near Judge Bariz's courtroom, and it's a key punch right now, and we'd like to replace that with a key card for the secure door so you can get in and out quickly. Sometimes he's standing out there with litigants and jurors, and it would be best if he could get in. And that's $2,400.
And then bulletproof vests, that's also on your list here?
Yes.
Okay.
That was $4,900. It's $700 a vest. I've tried to find grant money to see if we could possibly cover that, and nothing's available right now. Homeland Security did have money years ago, but they're not offering that right now.
There's like an expiration date on these vests?
Yes.
What's the lifespan on them things? And you're not getting tested?
5 years. It's just a breakdown of the
fibers.
breakdown of the
Creases.
fibers.
Yeah. From moving. Okay.
And so are we removing the clerk's plexiglass renovation?
I just had a question for Clerk Rosedale. Was that taken care of? Because there was talk about money being available this year, but I'm not sure if that occurred. Or maybe Teddy knows.
I don't know. Charlene was going to talk to Priest Glass about it.
So is it reasonable that that one be on the lower end, or is there a safety concern that needs to be addressed?
It's a safety concern as well. That should be addressed.
Well, is that something that they won't be Lexan or plexiglass? Or plexiglass they pulled
I believe it was plexiglass that we talked about.
It's not necessarily bulletproof for that, but people are getting, in society generally more and more unruly. They've sort of gone off the rails.
They have indeed.
Spitting
Yeah,
at
so I
people
don't
and
think
things
you
like
can get
that.
done in that far, but they can definitely get violent in that far.
Yeah. So it just provides a visible block.
Carly, do you know off the top of your, do they have available budget right now to pay for that?
I'd have to look at the budget. I don't know if we do or not. Again, I don't have, if the estimate's $25,000, I'm sorry, if the estimate's $7,500, we may have that money, but I know that we don't have the $25,000 for the
And I know
security
that,
upgrades.
yeah.
Is it possible that so the part-time attorney we won't consider as an enhancement because it's recurring?
Correct.
And then did you agree with Rosedale's statement that the copier isn't an enhancement either, or is there an issue with your budget?
An increase base for copier, that's they have to have it, that's not a negotiable. Like
So we can- So do we cross it off?
Yeah, I'd cross it
Build
off
that one
and
in.
move it to our budget.
Okay, so
So that's,
Yeah, so William suggested copier lease, and that's gonna go into the budget. The psychosexual, I think you said.
I'm in.
I have a question on this. Like, how did you come up with that dollar amount? Because that has increased a lot in Bonner County.
Yes.
So are we given enough room for that particular item in case you have more than you anticipate in this next coming year? Or were you trying to be almost online? Because I think you should give yourself a little cushion because that has increased in North Idaho a lot, and it's a requirement. So
It did increase it this fiscal year from the year prior. So what was set this year was 25,000. As of today, they used 5,200. So I'm sure there's more.
so that would be a good cushion. Then.
I'm fine with the $5,000. Now that we're back full throttle, I think there's going to be a lot more,
And the
So-
distance of care sometimes makes it an issue.
The numbers look low because of COVID, but it's.
Okay.
So the 5,200 has been used out of $25,000 budgeted?
But that's not to say that more bills are.
Oh, sure. No, yeah, absolutely. So are we, when we're talking this as enhancement then, board, are we looking at the 5,000 as a recurring, or are we leaving it as enhancement to be adjusted again next year based upon the usage?
My question on that one is because it's already in their line item, how is that not something you could just pull into the budget similarly to the increased cost of the copier? Because what she's saying is that line item is increased.
Yeah,
So
if it's a cost per, if you're not asking for one more cycle of valve, it's just the cost of the current ones are going up by that, or you're asking for more cycle of valves?
I'm asking to increase evaluations because of the cost of them. But there may be other defendants that need to be, examined.
So we normally automatically do those if it's a non-discretionary thing, like our electric bill or water bill. Like these, I think it's a mandated thing. You have to do the site eval.
Right.
So in that case, it wouldn't be good.
So we can cross that off too.
But
But the money,
The money will come in a different way, but not an enhancement on that.
but it still disappears.
So when you have the courthouse security upgrades, that's not inclusive of the secure door issue at the courthouse?
No, that was other security items that we talked about. There are, there's so many. There's doors that need to be replaced. There's doors that need to be added. There's different points of entry that needs to be. We have to take a look at that. The parking lot.
So when you guys came up with 25,000, did you identify what needed to be done with the estimated cost to come up with that figure?
I have that here. Sorry, I have two.
I mean, I just want to know that you guys are itemizing it, not just picking a number, so we know.
We itemized that one based upon bid that Chris received.
Okay, so you received a bid for 25,000 for the upgrades.
Yes.
Okay.
It was, okay, I'm sorry.
You're good.
$13,600 was the courthouse electronic key entry system. The key entry system only encompassed 4 doors, and so the employees can only use their card to enter the building through the entry door near the jail. And then what they wanted to do was they wanted to complete the system, add more doors, 5 doors, and they were $1,400 per door. And then the base unit to run it all was at an estimated cost of $5,000. And then to upgrade the 4 existing doors was estimated at $400 a door. That was $13,600. The other funding was for the different parts of the security. They wanted a camera near the kiosk machine. They wanted a security camera on the west side of the building, and cameras for the parking lot. And then there was a camera that they wanted near the basement, near the stairs, and then one near the second floor as you go up the stairs to Clerk's Row, and then one downstairs by the clerk's office.
Okay. And you're going to see if the 7,500 you have in your current budget, and then if not, or are you thinking you probably
That would cover
have
the plexiglass.
the 7,500 would cover the, but from that conversation, do you have it in this budget cycle already, and you guys could move forward with it?
I would
or-
have to check to make sure,
So,
because I know I don't have that in a line item. I'd have to pull from other lines.
so should we just assume that we need it as an enhancement and then take it off? That's a better
I think
approach.
she has room. I was here
Okay,
to take care of that.
Okay.
so we'll delete it off of this one then, since,
But there is existing security measures that are in place at the courthouse. So these are upgrades, which is why it is in the enhancement.
Yes.
Speaking for myself, I would like to nickel the key card for $2,400 for the judge. That makes sense to me. The bulletproof vests for the bailiffs. I'm looking to see if we're.
am I to understand you're saying that you want to set those aside?
No, I'm saying that we put it, I'm saying I'm willing to put those into the budget at this time, not to strike them, but to spend the money to invest taxpayer dollars in them. And in the uniforms. Those are the three, but I'm open to the conversation from the other board members about what they're at. I'm not prepared to do the additional security upgrades at this time.
I think that the courthouse needs to be protected. It's a security issue, and it's a service that is increasing with different types of people. I don't see how we cannot give the bailiffs tasers, because then your other option is you run the risk of having to use a more potentially dangerous source to address an issue. And the security of the courthouse, that's the...
Do they have
Yes.
tasers? They have tasers at this time. These are additional tasers, which is an enhancement.
Right.
Correct.
But
Well,
she's saying that that's a need for the safety of not just the staff, but also the people that are customers of the courthouse.
Well, staff on duty have tasers, though.
Correct.
So it would,
But you need two more.
Yes.
I can support the tasers.
And then courthouse security. I'm in favor of the security of the staff, and I find it hard to say no to securing the premises for what is being frequented in the increase of customers at the courthouse. And I think
Yeah, that pretty much covers everything but the ammo. And that's $600. He just budgeted for a big box ammo or something.
BOGO.
Trade in the used ammo back.
So are you in on the 25K there?
Yeah,
Okay.
that covers that plexiglass also.
no, they can get that in their own
Are we doing
budget.
I'm gonna
that
take
with
that out of
this-
this year's
with
budget.
this fiscal
Okay,
year?
okay.
So then the 600 on the
Yeah.
1,000 here, so yes on the ammo, okay?
Yep.
Thank you.
So you got rid of the plexiglass, you got rid of that's going to go to, hopefully this year, current. Part-time attorney, you said no to. The courthouse security, you said yes to, the 25.
Yeah.
Yep.
The cycle eval, I don't remember what you said
It
there.
Yes.
goes out of this, but no. We
That's
said
part
that
of
it
the
goes
25.
in, no, it goes into the regular budget because it's an increased
Perfect.
cost.
Yeah.
Okay, yes
So
to-
it's
yes
not-
to be permanent.
Yes.
Yes to be permanent. And then copier, yes.
Copier was the same increased cost.
Key card for secure door.
That was for Judge Breeze's calling.
Judges are so awesome.
We don't have to replace them either.
Especially once they get inside that room.
So the key, so have you,
Yes, for the key card
judge.
for security.
I think it was a unanimous yes on that one.
What did the board want to do in regards to expand and upgrade the courthouse electronic key card entry system? I'm at a I'm willing to wait on that at this time, but I'm willing to go with what the board works out.
How would waiting impact your team? Would it be?
It causes a lot of stress on the bailiffs because the way, just people coming in the doors, the way they're coming in the doors, it's been a problem for some time now.
I think one of the safety issues with that would be, especially for like a bailiff or somebody transporting somebody, the key card, you can do that with and still pay attention to what's going on around you, where if you go to punch a number and now your eyes are forward and kind of makes a vulnerable spot for a split second there. Not that any of those clients would take advantage of that.
So is that a yes?
I have a hard time saying no to the safety concern of staff.
Yeah.
That's where I land, and I would rely on her to make the assessment of whether it's an absolute need on this budget and go with that.
I would say it's a need. We've been trying to get this done for quite some time now. And, as we all know, the population is increasing.
And
visitors to the courthouses is,
dramatically.
Increasing, and people are a little bit more aggressive and hostile. So when you have people coming into the building, you want them to be able to have some different options with a more upgraded system.
So I would go with her recommendation for me, but that's,
Okay. Yep. Next page. Elections is going to be in executive session, I believe.
Which one? Yeah, the elections indigent will be executive session. And the Ron Snopes, you did those already.
There.
That's exact, okay. So then we'd be down to 911 technology, which is also exact.
I thought we said that 911 tech, though, that all of those were the 911 tech. We did that yesterday. I thought we were in agreement for the 295.84. Just because that was it.
Basically self-funded.
Yep, the 823.
That made it easy. We like easy.
The 824s, though, are depending on budget capacity. Those are up to bat.
We are. What we just did was 5,000.
but the 823 is all funded out of the 911 fund.
Yep.
Yes.
And so when we get down to 824, and we're looking at those items, are those are specific to?
Those are funded through the Justice Fund.
Those are levied.
I have a quick request since we're at kind of I have to leave at 3 and Elisa's going to come in and take over. Can we take a 5-minute recess just to swap out clerks? You guys are leaving?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you recess?
Calculator.
Holler when you're ready.
Okay. I'm ready.
Okay, it is 2:38. We will take a 5-minute recess.